then based on that, our narcotics units was out in this neighborhood, which is really about 4 blocks away from where that original shooting happened this weekend, doing their undercover operations. That led them over here to 4th Avenue, where they made an undercover buy of narcotics from a house on 4th Avenue. As they made that buy, other detectives who were clearly marked in tactical vests, marked with the badge, word police on the front, police on the back, went to conduct further investigations at the house where the narcotics were purchased. As 3 of those detectives exited a vehicle, walked up to the house, one of the subjects who was on the covered carport area of the house turned, faced away from the driver of the vehicle, who's a 16-year veteran assigned to the narcotics unit. He turned away from him and faced towards one of the other detectives who had exited the car. He lifted his shirt up, and the one detective, the driver of the vehicle, could see that he had a handgun underneath his shirt, and he was reaching for that handgun with his attention, again, faced towards the one of the undercover detectives. The shooting detective gave verbal commands for him to stop. For whatever reason, that subject didn't stop, continued to reach for the gun, put his hand on it, and began to remove it from his waistline. The detective fired at least 2 shots, potentially more. We're still working through some of that, at that subject, again, fearing that he may be taking that gun and going to use it against his partner. The subject was hit at least 2 times, maybe more. We're still working through that. He's in the hospital now at UF Health, going through some surgery. The subject was struck and was hit in the extremities and in the side back area of his body. Again, rescue was called. He was transported to UF Health and is in stable condition, undergoing surgery at this time. The detective involved was placed on administrative leave. Thankfully, none of the JSO detectives were hurt. No shots were fired by the suspect. He never was able to get the gun out. The detective fired at him prior to him being able to actually remove that gun. We're still working through some legalities of getting into the house. The original detectives reported, obviously, that they made a drug purchase from this house. Working through the legalities of getting in that to further our scene investigation there as to what is in the house, narcotics-wise. We will have a follow-up news conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll have more information. Our suspect looks like he's a black male and is roughly in his 30s. Don't have him positively identified yet, so I can't really let his name go. We'll work through the night to be able to work more to identify him. I'm not going to release the name of the undercover detective now because of his status as such, as an undercover detective. He has been placed on administrative leave, which is pretty standard for our policy when use of deadly force is done. And I can answer some questions if anybody has them.
You said there was a narcotics purchase out of here, a drug purchase?
Yes. Yeah, that we...
Today or?
No, immediately proceeding within minutes prior to this. It was between 6 and 6:05 the shooting occurred. So within 2 or 3 minutes prior to the shooting occurring, we don't wait. These are immediate turnarounds that we'll do on these by bust.
What kind of drugs?
Still working through that. I don't want to let too much out. I'll have some more information about that tomorrow. But as it stands now, I don't want to let that information out.
Was anybody else at the home when the shooting happened?
Yeah, there were several subjects on the porch. I'll have them identified tomorrow for you as well, but there was at least 3 individuals on the porch and 1 who had exited from the house, which is consistent with the way that we purchased the drugs.
Was anyone arrested because of this undercover?
Yeah, still working through that. Again, the legalities of getting into that house and knowing who was actually in possession of it. At least 2 of the subjects on the carport that were stopped were in possession of narcotics. But as it relates to where they were in the drug sales, that still is still working through some of the details of that. So
is this related to the shooting that happened?
I don't really know at this point in time. But again, we're 4 blocks from where this little girl and her mom were shot. The information that we had over the weekend, and we've continued to work that case throughout the weekend and into today, was that there is a nexus there to drug sales and drug use to what occurred with their shooting into that house. So it's common sense. Well, yeah, it's in the same neighborhood. It's a good approach to take that if that shooting is related to drugs, the people buying and selling and using the drugs in this area either could have information or could possibly be related. We're still just a couple hours after this occurred. We're going to look through the subjects that we have there, the subjects that we have in this immediate area, to see if they have some relation to that. So.
But those detectives were here believing that there could be a connection, correct?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's it's common sense that if we think that drugs are related to that shooting, that we come in this neighborhood. And I'm sure the good people that live around here are well aware that there's drugs sold and used in this neighborhood, and probably happy to see that we're out here doing that.
Was everybody at their home arrested, or just the person who was shot at? The guys that were on the porch, were they arrested?
Well, we're in the process of doing that now. Again, at least one of them had narcotics on them, but we're still working through the other parts of that. The people that were taken into custody will be interviewed and try to find out what they may know or if they have any relation to anything.
And what about the homeowner?
Still trying to find who the homeowner is. It doesn't look like we had that homeowner in our custody. So again, this could be a drug house that we have over here, and sad as that is.
How many detectives total were here at the time of the shooting?
There were at least 3 doing the immediate takedown. When we do these undercover operations, you can have as many as 10 to 12. The work that these men and women do in our narcotics, the undercover status that they work in, is an extremely, extremely dangerous, very volatile. It's no surprise that there's a connection between drugs and guns and violence. Those who sell drugs and hang out with those that do many times arm themselves. Obviously today they're not afraid to try to take those guns out. Why somebody would decide at the order of a police officer to not touch the gun, to stop and continue forward, the fact that they do that just highlights the danger and the risk that the men and women who are doing this job, the narcotics job, they face every day.
Can you tell us again how many people, I want to make sure I understand, how many people are in custody?
At this time we have 4 people in custody,
Including the suspect
including
at
the suspect in the hospital.
I know it's still early, but have you guys ever responded to this house before for drugs or anything?
I'll have that information for you tomorrow. Well, that's just as a general course of action that we'll do. We'll look at the locations to see if this is a repeat location that we have, if it's related to it. It appears today that our efforts at this house were just pretty random here, but we'll go back and do a further investigation as to the address and see what happens from there.
And in your opinion, do you think that was a good move for the officer to shoot the suspect?
Try not to put too many opinions into what I do and go primarily just on what the facts are. You know, when we do these officer-involved shootings, we'll take a look both from a criminal aspect for the use of deadly force and do an investigation into the officer's use of deadly force and deployment of deadly force as it relates to the law and whether it's legal. The state attorney conducts a completely separate investigation into the legalities of that use of deadly force. But later we'll go back and look from an administrative standpoint, every step that officer took, whether it's within policy and within his training. You know, when you have these things, you not only have to worry about the protection of your life, but you have to worry about the protection of your partner. You have to worry about the protection of innocent citizens who live in this area and are in the immediate surroundings. I don't second guess what a detective or officer involved in shooting would do, especially here within a couple hours from it. We have a process that looks into that and takes out opinions from that. But again, the dangers associated with this job, hesitation when you have deadly force involved, it can wind up being yourself being dead, somebody else being dead. I mean, here within the last 2 weeks, we had an undercover detective who was on what you would think to be a routine traffic stop, which there is not one, who shortly thereafter, stopping a car, was involved in a gun battle within seconds. So it's dangerous. Can't second guess. The fact that we're alive, the detectives lived through this, is a blessing, and look at it as such.
So y'all have not been into the house yet?
I've not been in the house yet.
And so the work that y'all have been doing is in the crime scene?
Correct.
Which being the
Outside, that would be in the area that we would have legal means to get in.
And just to clarify, the double shooting over the weekend led you to this house?
No, the double shooting over the weekend led us to this neighborhood. I mean, it's 4 blocks from here. The fact that drugs are related to that shooting led us to this neighborhood to work an undercover operation to see if that would generate some information.
And since you said neighborhood, so how many other houses were you guys in today?
This is the only one that we've been in so far.
And all of the detectives involved were undercover?
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
So
Right.
do you plan on going under in other houses?
Well, this kind of puts a little slow
Yeah.
on that because the officers and detectives involved with that operation stop what they're doing based on this. So this may slow us down for the evening, but it won't slow us down for good. All right. See y'all tomorrow at 10. Thank you very much.